Socio-Economic Issues and Concern. For this is a continuation, and again, for today, we have two parts. And this is the first part of the video lecture. So in this video, we will be discussing deployment of Filipino entertainers abroad, an issue on the get-rich-quick schemes, food crisis issue, cyberbullying, social media issues, and terrorism issue. So deployment of Filipino entertainers abroad. So if you think about Filipino entertainers, the most common is in Japan. So many of the Filipino women worked as entertainers abroad, especially in Japan. That's why before, maybe even now, Japayukis is a very common Filipinism, or what we call them. And the question is it legal? And it is, yes. The Philippine government allows the deployment of Filipino women as young as 18 years old as entertainers or overseas performing artists in Japan in 2002. So that is what they call them, entertainers or overseas performing artists. But there are issues, no? First issue we will tackle is the issuance of the ARB, Artist Record Book. So when the entertainers apply to go to Japan, they would apply for the Artist Record Book. So the TESDA would issue this. However, there are issues na idugay, i-delay ang pag-issue sa TESDA. And another issue is that TESDA demands 25,000 pesos to get the ARB instead of only 300 pesos from each applicant. So actually until now, it's still existing because when I went to Taiwan, I worked there as a nurse assistant in Taiwan. And then I also have, along with me, our entertainers in Taiwan. And they paid a lot of money in the agency, and I also paid a lot of money to go to Taiwan. So instead of just a small fee, dako kayo ang mabayaran, which resulted to loss of earning about $800 a month for Filipino women applicants or more. The entertainers were also vulnerable to abuse, and some were even driven to prostitution by the Japanese Yakuza gang, according to the Movement for Responsible Enterprise, or MORE. MORE is a civic group of concerned citizens. The Philippine government provided cover to save Japan from embarrassment of hosting Filipino prostitutes in Japan. Like if we look at it, it's like the Philippines are more concerned of the other country than its own Filipino people. Okay, so that's about the entertainers. And we'll go to the next issue. Okay. Get rich quick, call now, only for this amount. Or have you heard of the pyramiding? Okay, so the next issue is the get rich quick scheme. So what is this? These are the common taglines of those establishments who offers this. There are many ways to getting rich with less energy and sweat. You can become a millionaire in 3 years. You can turn your financial dreams into reality. Those are the promises for the pseudo investment firms. When you say pseudo, it's false or not true. Investment firms in luring the public to invest. And they are not registered in SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission. And victims, those that invests in this kind of scheme, placed investments from 10,000 pesos to 50 million pesos. I know a friend who invested at his young age. He invested 10,000, and then few months there are interest that's coming in niya, nabalik ang na ako na nagkwartang nahatag niya, but then after a month or after 2 months wala na nagpahibalo. And then I also know a close family of mine na they also invested almost a million. And then nawala tong pyramiding katong na issue months ago, or maybe that was last year, and then wala, because they are not licensed under the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the SEC have already issued cease and desist orders, or CDO, on these pseudo investment firms that are operating without license. So ipahunong ang negosyo establishment. So the pseudo investment firms acted as lending investors, pautang. Investment firms mo invest kag 10,000 or how much, and then tagaan kag interest every month na dako kaayo. And then financial companies mo offer the same as lending investors. They promote their services by telephone calls, mails, or personal visits, and usually offer investors huge interest. So like 15%. Now kayo ang 15%. Others gani the legit firms, they only offer 3%. The banks offer just 3%, and kana 15% pag dako na kay kaayo magduda na ka. So, and then without explaining the risk involved, kay na danira ka sa ilahang promises. Investors usually discover that they have been duped only when the checks issued to them bounce, or the operators are nowhere to be found. Mawala na sila, or ang checking gihatag wala da ay sulod. And their supposed offices are locked or non-existent. Ilahang address of the office is not existing da ay, wala da ay. So, and then investment firms engaged in the so-called pyramiding operation have doped at least 2 million Filipinos. 2 million Filipinos ang nauwat. Of such, as much as 70 billion ang nakuha sa mga pseudo investment firms, or and especially the pyramiding operation. They have not been completely stopped because the government attention is more on drugs and corruption. So this is still existing. So kamo, if you are already earning dollars or or you already have huge money, dili mo pataka og invest sa mga establishments that are not licensed under the SEC, or Securities and Exchange Commission. And make sure na before mo mohatag, mo invest og money, background check of the company. Okay. Next issue is the food crisis issue here in the Philippines. And this has been existent since sa una. The Philippines, as a lower middle income country, has a food deficit that exacerbated by the combined effects of man-made and natural disasters. So we are not a rich country. Lower middle income country na ta. We belong to the third world countries. Dayon, naapagod tayo, ay mosamot ang ka problema sa food because of the man-made and natural disasters. Example of man-mades are wars, conflict. Natural disasters, earthquakes, typhoon. And geographically, the Philippines is one of the most disaster-prone countries. Every year, dagan kayo typhoon na musulod sa ato ang nasud. Mindanao region has suffered. So Mindanao region has suffered for over 4 decades of armed conflict, resulting in internal displacement and overall deterioration of living standards. And the people of the central Mindanao region are the country's poorest. But you know what? Mindanao actually is one of the richest in terms of agriculture, in terms of land agriculture. Rich kayo ang soil sa Mindanao. They have one of the longest and largest river. The food sources there is really rich. But then, sige gira. So, ma-displaced ang mga tao dito because of the armed conflict. So this is the central Mindanao. Dako kayo ang land area sa Mindanao, and they have really very nice, one of the best agricultural land in the Philippines. The World Food Program is a program all over the world that works closely with the government of the Philippines and the UN agencies and the non-government organizations and communities to support the poor and vulnerable people in the Philippines, particularly those affected by the conflict in Mindanao region. Okay, next issue is cyberbullying. So you know what cyberbullying. This is your era. You've grown up with phones and computers and internet. However, along with that are consequences of having that. Ang mga tao isog kaayo behind the screen. Pero kung harap-harapan, lumo kaayo. Cyberbullying is a social crime that is plaguing our country today because of the influx of social media gadgets and other online technology in the market. So it is reported that there is 782 cases of reports about cyberbullying, or that is from the record of anti-cybercrime crime group, and then 208 cases of online threat in 2016. Again, cyberbullying is a social crime. Pwede ka makihaan. So watch out. It can result to fear going to school, experience loneliness, humiliation, insecurity, tends to struggle with poor relationships, and have difficulty making emotional and social adjustments. Cyberbullying is even more harmful to young people than to face-to-face bullying for a number of reasons. The face-to-face bullying, sumbagay ra, sakitanay, physical pain. But cyberbullying, dili. The effects are more long-term, dugay, permanence. The insults, comments, or images can be preserved and can be viewed over and over again, and the harm is re-inflicted with each reading. Audience size, vast kayong audience because it can be shared in Facebook, worldwide, YouTube, and all that. Familiarity, personal connections to the audience, increasing the potential for embarrassment and humiliation. Just like if you did something wrong and then you post din ka sa social media, sa Facebook, and then share dayon na, and dagad kay naka-familiar nimo kay, ala, classmate man na ako, nadakpan, og kuan, shabu, hala, kuan man na ako. You, siya, cyberbullying, it's part of cyberbullying. Social networking, easy to share and involve others. And then the speed, it's fast, thus creating huge damage. Just in one click, agad na kaayong effects. So yeah, this is cyberbullying can result to depression, illness, humiliation, anger, isolation. Okay. And talking about cyberbullying, social media issues. So look at this photo. Overwhelmed, are you? Are you one of the persons in this photo? Overwhelmed with social media. Everyday pagmata, Facebook. Kaya na kayo muna ang ka-flood sa imuhang daily life. So there are many parents who worry about how exposure to technology might affect the children developmentally, because the parents, they grew up without social media and they worry with this generation. You grew up, ako bata pa ko, I didn't have any social media. I was born in the 1980s, so wala pa mi ani kamo na new generation, kamo mo exposed aning social media issue, and your parents actually are worried what it can what will be the effect of this. And know that your diet is not only what you eat. Your diet is not only what you eat. It is what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, and the people you hang around. So be cautious. Okay, whatever you put into your body, maybe in your mouth or in your eyes, ears, or in your brain, that becomes who you are. So experts worry that the social media and text messages that have become so integral to teenage life are promoting anxiety and lowering self-esteem. And I know a lot of people around your age, or maybe a bit older than you, 20s and with mid 20s, they're experiencing depression. And I know that social media is one of the reasons for that. Only a few students now go to libraries, read books, newspapers, and magazines. Can you relate to this? And they just depend on Facebook and on the internet. Dili na mabasa yung newspaper. Wala na yung newspaper sa balay. Kay mulantaw na lang sa Hulagway o Kasikas sa Dumaguete. Right? Nara sa Facebook tanan ang information. That's why motuo tanan unsay gi-post. Social media have created a lot of benefits, yes, but also risks. So what must be done? What can you do? We'll see. That will be part of the questions in our exams. So take note of that. Okay. Then the last topic for this video lecture is terrorism issue. And I know that you're aware of this. Maybe here in Negros, dili kayo siya rampant. But in Mindanao and areas there, armed locals. So terrorism is a major social issue in the Philippines and is linked to Moro conflict, Abu Sayyaf, BIFF, and the CPP, NPA, and NDF rebellion. Terrorism is a crime under Human Security Act of 2007, causing widespread and extraordinary fear and panic among the populace. So Abu Sayyaf. So a short overview of the terrorist group. The first one is Abu Sayyaf. It's a small but terrible group. One of the smallest, lawless groups. Wala, they don't have any laws and they don't respect the laws in of the Philippines. And among them are violent. Members are usually Filipino Muslims from Sulu Archipelago and across southern Mindanao region and have included foreign jihadists, reportedly funded and trained by international terrorist network Al-Qaeda and its affiliate, Indonesia-based Jimaya Islamiyah. MNLF and MILF, groups in Mindanao seeking a Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of the Moro people from the central government. I am not going to further discuss this terrorist group because it is part of your assignment. I have created an assignment and you will know more about this terrorist group from that assignment. It'll be fun. Okay. BIF, it'll be fun because you'll gain a lot of information about the terrorist groups. And kamo, majority of you are lucky and you have the somehow responsibility to be aware that this terrorist groups exist. Okay. So the BIFF people were originally member of MILF, but they separated from the leadership of the MILF due to differences in leadership and policies. The NPA or the NPA rebels, the most active armed groups fighting government forces,